What if the greatest record label in history was also one of the greatest traps ever set for black artists in America? Motown gave the world Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, The Temptations. Music so perfect it feels like it fell from the sky. But the people who made that music, many of them fought for years just to see a fair royalty check. Tonight, 10 of those artists tell their side of the story, and once you hear it, you will never listen to Motown the same way again.
Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low.
Number 10, The Miracles / Smokey Robinson. Most people think of Smokey Robinson as Berry Gordy's closest ally, and in many ways he was. Gordy called Smokey one of America's greatest living poets. Robinson was a vice president at Motown. He was inside the machine. But that closeness, that proximity to power, is exactly what makes his eventual departure in 1972 so telling. Smokey Robinson didn't leave angry. He left exhausted. By his own account, he was burning out completely, writing, producing, performing, and running label operations simultaneously for over a decade. He had penned hits for The Temptations, Mary Wells, Marvin Gaye, and dozens of others while keeping the Miracles commercially alive. He was doing the work of 5 people and carrying the emotional weight of an institution. But beneath the burnout was something more pointed. Robinson has spoken about the pressure Gordy applied to keep output high, regardless of artistic quality. The conveyor belt mentality, songs treated as product units rather than creative expressions. Smokey Robinson was a poet, he said so himself, and poetry cannot be scheduled like a manufacturing run.
When there's no one around.
What Robinson exposed wasn't cruelty or exploitation, it was something more insidious. The way Motown could take a man's greatest gift and grind it into commerce until the man himself nearly disappeared. Even the ones Berry Gordy loved weren't fully safe from the machine. And that is the part that lingers longest when you study Smokey Robinson's story. The man who helped build Motown brick by brick had to walk away just to remember who he was. Some prices are paid not in money, but in pieces of yourself you never fully get back. Number 9, Jimmy Ruffin. You know the voice.
All that's left is an unhappy ending.
What Becomes of the Broken-Hearted, one of the most emotionally devastating songs in soul history, released in 1966.
What becomes of the broken-hearted?
That was Jimmy Ruffin. And if you didn't know his name until just now, that is precisely the point. Jimmy Ruffin was David Ruffin's older brother.
Always moving and going.
And there is a bitter irony buried in that fact, because Jimmy was actually offered a spot in The Temptations before David was. He turned it down, preferring a solo career. And for one extraordinary moment in 1966, it looked like he'd made the right call. What Becomes of the Broken-Hearted was a top 5 hit on both sides of the Atlantic.
Got to find some kind of peace of mind.
In the UK, he was genuinely huge, but Motown never fully committed to Jimmy Ruffin as a priority act.
Maybe, oh yeah.
The promotional machinery that was pointed at Diana Ross, at the Supremes, and at Marvin Gaye, it never fully swung in his direction.
The roots of love grow all around.
Albums were released without adequate support.
No, I don't succeed.
Follow-up singles were chosen poorly, And Jimmy Ruffin, a man with one of the warmest, most searching voices Motown ever recorded,
Someone's love, that's such a growing need.
found himself perpetually on the edge of the spotlight rather than inside it.
Oh, baby, darling, I need you. Come on.
He relocated to the UK in the 1970s, where audiences had never stopped loving him, and rebuilt his career there.
For someone's love, that's such a growing.
He was candid in interviews about feeling like a second-tier priority at Motown, despite delivering a first-tier record.
I walk in shadows, searching for light.
The label, he suggested, simply had too many artists and not enough genuine investment to go around.
What becomes of the broken hearted?
Some got the full Motown push, others got the song and a handshake. Jimmy Ruffin got the song, the handshake, and a plane ticket to London.
Happy ending. What becomes of the broken
His story is a quiet indictment of how Motown allocated its power and attention.
hearted? You had a sweet love that
One transcendent record was not enough if the label had already decided you weren't the priority. Talent alone at Motown was never the whole equation.
you had a sweet love that's not your
Quick question, are you subscribed? If not, you're part of the 99% who watch and disappear. Here's the problem, YouTube won't show you our next video unless you subscribe. So if you want more untold music stories like this, hit that button right now, 2 seconds, do it before you forget.
day. I know I'm gonna find a way. Nothing's gonna stop.
Number 8, Holland-Dozier-Holland. Let's talk about the men behind the curtain.
I often hear another day.
Because if any story exposes the machinery of Motown more completely than any artist ever could, it's the story of Brian Holland, Lamont Dozier, and Eddie Holland. These three men wrote and produced an almost incomprehensible run of hits between 1963 and 1967.
Some say it's a sign of weakness for a man.
The Supremes, the Four Tops, Marvin Gaye, Martha and the Vandellas, the Isley Brothers.
Then we
Over a dozen #1 records in just 4 years. And they claimed they were not being paid fairly for any of it.
I'd rather be.
In 1968, Holland-Dozier-Holland sued Motown for approximately $4 million, alleging unpaid royalties and breach of contract.
When you see me smiling, you know.
Gordy countersued. The legal battle locked all three men out of the music industry for nearly 2 years while the litigation dragged on.
Some say
Think about that, the most productive songwriting team in American pop music, completely silenced, while lawyers argued over money.
it's a sign of weakness for a man to bear.
When the dust settled, they started their own labels, Invictus and Hot Wax Records. They had moderate success.
Then I'd rather be.
Band of Gold by Frida Payne came out of that era. Give Me Just a Little More Time by the chairman of the board.
Darling, I can't go on without you.
Good records, but nothing that matched the volcanic creativity of the Motown years. The lawsuit was never fully resolved publicly.
This emptiness won't let me live without you.
But what Holland-Dozier-Holland exposed was the central tension at Motown's core. Gordy owned everything.
This loneliness inside, darling.
The songs, the masters, the publishing. The artist development costs were recouped from royalties before artists saw a dime.
Makes me feel half alive.
HDH had generated tens of millions of dollars in revenue for the label. And they believed, deeply believed, they had not been compensated accordingly. Three of the greatest music minds of the 20th century walked away with lawyers instead of Grammys. The songs they wrote still generate millions in licensing today. The question of who those millions flow to remains one of the most uncomfortable conversations in soul music history. Number 7, Martha Reeves.
Playing, dancing in the
Martha Reeves has been telling her story for decades, and people still underestimate how revealing it is. She came to Motown not as an artist, but as a secretary. She was working in the A&R department, answering phones, scheduling sessions. And then one day, Mary Wells didn't show up for a recording date. Martha Reeves stepped in, and that was the beginning of Martha and the Vandellas. Heatwave, dancing in the street, nowhere to run. Martha Reeves had one of the most powerful voices Motown ever recorded. Raw, urgent, completely her own. And she has said repeatedly, across decades of interviews, that she signed her original Motown contract without fully understanding what she was signing, without a lawyer, and without anyone explaining the royalty structures or the recoupment clauses or what it meant to assign your publishing rights. She's also spoken about a period in the early 1970s when she was struggling personally, dealing with what she described as a prescription drug dependency, and she felt that Motown did not support her through it. That she was more useful to the label as a productive asset than as a human being going through a crisis. By 1974, she was gone from Motown, and the legal battles over back royalties continued for years. Martha Reeves ran for and won a seat on the Detroit City Council in 2005. She never stopped talking about what happened at Motown. She wrote a memoir. She gave interviews. She testified. Because Martha Reeves understood something that younger artists sometimes don't: silence protects the institution. And she had no interest in protecting the institution. She turned her pain into a platform and her grievances into public record. Martha Reeves refused to let Motown's version of history be the only version. That kind of courage, quiet, persistent, undeniable, is its own form of power. Number 6, The Temptations. The Temptations are Motown royalty.
And with each beat of my heart, for
5 men in perfect suits, moving in perfect synchronization, harmonizing in a way that still sounds like a miracle 60 years later.
every day we're apart, our hunger for every wasted.
And their story with Berry Gordy and Motown is one of the most turbulent, heartbreaking, and revealing in the label's entire history. David Ruffin was the fire at the center of the group through the mid-1960s. His lead on My Girl, on Ain't Too Proud to Beg, on I Wish It Would Rain, that raw, wounded tenor was the sound of a generation.
Oh, baby.
And David Ruffin knew it. He began demanding solo billing. David Ruffin and the Temptations. Gordy said no. The group said no. And in 1968, Ruffin was out-replaced mid-tour, reportedly without even being informed properly in advance. What followed for Ruffin personally was a slow unraveling addiction, financial ruin, legal troubles. He died in 1991 with very little to show financially for the decade of hits he had anchored. His estate fought for years over royalties he claimed were never properly paid. Paul Williams, another original member, struggled with alcoholism and health issues throughout the early 1970s, conditions the group and label were largely unable or unwilling to address with any real support. He passed away in 1973. The Temptations themselves grew increasingly frustrated through the 1970s as their commercial fortunes declined and Motown's attention shifted to newer acts.
Yes, I will.
Eddie Kendricks was gone. David Ruffin was gone. The group that remained kept recording, kept touring, but the institutional support had thinned. They eventually left for Atlantic Records in 1976. The Temptations story doesn't have one villain or one moment.
Oh, baby.
It has a decade of small decisions, withheld support, and human beings treated as replaceable parts in a hit-making machine. And the receipts are all there.
Yes, I will. You know I will.
Behind every perfect choreographed step was a man negotiating his own survival within a system that didn't truly see him.
For every day we apart, our hunger for
The suits were immaculate, the smiles were rehearsed, and the pain was entirely real.
every wasted hour.
Number 5, Gladys Knight. Gladys Knight and the Pips signed with Motown in 1966. And from the beginning, there was friction. Not the screaming kind, the slow, grinding, institutional kind that wears artists down over years. Gladys Knight has been remarkably candid in interviews about the specific nature of that friction.
We just won't let it die.
The label controlled which songs you recorded. The label controlled when your album came out. The label controlled your image, your interview schedule, your television appearances. And there was a particular wound that Gladys Knight never quite got over.
That's a simple word that I just can't.
I heard it through the grapevine. One of the most famous songs in soul music history was recorded by Gladys Knight and the Pips first. Her version was completed in 1967. It was good. It was very good, and then Motown shelved it, held it back, and gave the song to Marvin Gaye, whose version was released in 1968 and became a massive culture-defining hit.
Keep wondering.
Gladys Knight's version was eventually released. It charted, but it wasn't the phenomenon that Marvin's was, and she knew why. The label had simply decided Marvin Gaye was the priority.
This can have a happy ending.
Gladys Knight and the Pips were secondary. That decision made in a boardroom, without consulting her, cost her what might have been the defining hit of her career.
No.
By 1973, she and the Pips left for Buddha Records. And the very first album they released, Imagination, contained Midnight Train to Georgia, which won the Grammy for Best R&B Vocal Performance by a duo, group, or chorus.
You must be.
Her first year out from under Gordy's control, she won a Grammy. Draw your own conclusions. Well, Gladys Knight never raised her voice in bitterness when she told these stories.
Wondering that same thing too.
She spoke in facts, calmly and clearly, because the facts were damning enough on their own.
Gonna do without you.
That Grammy said everything that needed to be said without a single word about Berry Gordy. Number 4, Eddie Kendricks. Eddie Kendricks was the falsetto voice of the Temptations, that piercing, angelic upper register on Just My Imagination.
Dear Lord, hear my plea.
That was him, and his departure from the group and from Motown in 1971 is one of the more painful stories in the label's history.
Oh, don't ever let another take a...
Kendricks had creative ambitions that were consistently being subordinated to the group dynamic and to Motown's vision for the Temptations as a unified act. When Norman Whitfield took over the Temptations production in the late 1960s and began pushing the group towards psychedelic soul longer, more experimental tracks, Kendricks was uncomfortable. He was a craftsman of classic melodic soul. The new direction didn't feel like him. He also had business disagreements, royalty disputes, the standard Motown catalog of grievances. But what made Kendricks particularly outspoken was his willingness to name the structure itself as the problem.
But in reality,
Not just Berry Gordy personally, but the way Motown was built, where the label owned the group name, owned the recordings, owned the brand. Individual members were essentially interchangeable components.
but it was just my imagination.
Kendricks left and went solo with Tamla, still within the Motown family, ironically, and had a genuine hit with Keep On Truckin' in 1973. But his later years were marked by financial difficulty and health struggles. He passed away in 1992. And in the years before his death, he spoke openly about feeling that the wealth generated by his voice, his artistry, and his decades of work had not returned to him in anything like the proportion he deserved. That is a sentence that echoes across nearly every name on this list. A voice that filled arenas, a royalty statement that filled almost nothing. Eddie Kendricks deserved far better than the ending he received. Number 3, Marvin Gaye.
Ain't no river wide enough, baby.
Marvin Gaye's relationship with Berry Gordy is one of the most complex, painful, and well documented in music history because it was also a family relationship.
Ain't no mountain high enough.
Gaye married Gordy's sister, Anna, in 1963. So the power dynamic between artist and label head was layered with the additional weight of family, loyalty, and personal obligation. For years, Gordy resisted Marvin Gaye's attempts to make serious, socially conscious music. Gaye wanted to respond to the Vietnam War, to the civil rights movement, to the poverty and unrest he saw in Black America. Gordy wanted more Ain't No Mountain High Enough, more crossover pop, more product.
If you need me, call me, no matter.
The battle over What's Going On in 1971 is legendary. Gordy reportedly called it the worst thing he'd ever heard and refused to release it. Gaye threatened to never record for Motown again. Gordy relented. What's Going On became one of the greatest albums in the history of recorded music. But even that victory didn't resolve the deeper tensions. The divorce from Anna Gordy in the mid-1970s was catastrophic financially.
You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't.
The settlement required Gaye to give Anna the royalties from his next album, which became Here My Dear, one of the most unusual records ever made. A brutally honest chronicle of a failing marriage made specifically to fulfill a financial obligation.
You could always count on me, darling, from that day on.
Art born from legal documents. Gaye eventually left Motown in 1982 for Columbia Records. He said he needed to breathe. That Motown and the Gordy family entanglement had become suffocating. 2 years later, he was gone, killed by his own father one day before his 45th birthday. His story is the most extreme illustration of what happened when Motown's world became too small to contain the artist it had created. Marvin Gaye gave Motown some of the greatest music the human race has ever produced, and the institution he gave it to could never quite figure out what to do with a man that brilliant and that free. The world lost him far too soon, and that loss belongs to all of us.
How far?
Don't worry, baby.
Just call my.
Number 2, The Supremes / Diana Ross.
No matter how long it takes, you can.
The Supremes were Motown's crown jewel, And the story of what happened to them is the story of what happens when a label decides one member of a group is more valuable than the group itself. Florence Ballard co-founded the Supremes. She was there from the beginning, before the hit records, before the Ed Sullivan appearances, before the matching gowns and the choreography. She was a founding member, and Gordy replaced her in 1967 with Cindy Birdsong, quietly, without public explanation. Without, by most accounts, adequate warning to Ballard herself. What followed for Florence Ballard was devastating. She received a settlement from Motown that she later claimed was far less than what she was owed. She signed a contract again, reportedly without independent legal counsel that restricted her ability to perform and record. She struggled financially. By 1975, Florence Ballard was on welfare, a founding member of the biggest group in Motown history, on welfare. She died in 1976 at the age of 32. Diana Ross, meanwhile, had been cultivated by Gordy personally and professionally into a solo superstar. Their relationship, which many believe was romantic, gave Ross access to a level of creative control and label support that other Motown artists simply did not receive. Ross herself has acknowledged the preferential treatment, though the framing shifts depending on the interview. The Supreme story exposes the most uncomfortable truth about Motown, that the label's loyalty to its artists was conditional, commercial, and ultimately disposable. Our Florence Ballard gave everything, and Motown moved on without a second glance. Some careers are built on the silence of the people who are pushed aside to make room for them. Number 1, Stevie Wonder, and here we are. Number 1, and if you've stayed this long, this is exactly why you should have. Stevie Wonder was signed to Motown at the age of 11. 11 years old, he recorded as Little Stevie Wonder, the child prodigy with the harmonica, the bongo drums, and a voice that made grown people stop and stare. Motown owned everything. Every recording, every dollar that came in went into a trust that Gordy controlled until Stevie came of age. At least that was the official arrangement. When Stevie Wonder turned 21 in 1971, he did something no other Motown artist had ever done with the same leverage. He simply stopped. He refused to sign a new contract. He walked into negotiations holding every card because by then, signed, sealed, aren't delivered. For once in my life, and a decade of hits had made him one of the most commercially valuable artists on the planet.
In fact, he's just enough.
He negotiated a deal that was unprecedented in Motown history. Creative control, ownership of his masters, his own publishing through his company Black Bull Music.
No summer's high,
A royalty rate that actually reflected his commercial power.
but what it is.
It took over a year of negotiation, and what came out the other side was Talking Book, Inner Visions, Fulfillingness First Finale, and Songs in the Key of Life, 4 of the greatest albums ever made, back to back to back to back.
To feel your heart like no 3 words.
Stevie Wonder didn't just expose the Motown system, he broke it open, walked through it, and rebuilt the terms of engagement entirely on his own behalf. And he showed every artist who came after him at Motown and everywhere else that the contract you sign doesn't have to be the contract you die with. That talent, wielded with patience and courage, is its own form of power. Berry Gordy built something extraordinary, but the artists who built it with him paid a price that the gold records never quite captured. 10 names, 10 stories, 1 empire, and the truth has never stopped coming out. Where there is genius, there must also be justice. Stevie Wonder understood that better than anyone, and he made sure the world heard it, 4 albums at a time.